welcome to Doctrine and Devotion, a podcast that explores Christian faith and practice from a Reformed Baptist perspective. My name is Joe Thorne. I'm the lead pastor of Redeemer Fellowship in St. Charles, Illinois.
And I'm Jimmy Fowler, executive pastor at Redeemer Fellowship.
What is going on?
Nothing. What's going on with you?
Well, we're recording this early, so by the time this drops, will we know who the president is?
Well, maybe.
What do you think, though? Do you think we're going to know?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a landslide.
Whoa.
I do. I don't think it's close. I definitely don't think it's close.
Whoa.
So, I mean, I think I know who's going to win.
That's very unconventional wisdom to say that it'll be a landslide.
I think it's going to be a landslide, and I think it's going to be a landslide either way.
No, I don't. Yeah, I totally disagree.
I don't think it's close at all.
I think it'll be relatively close, but I don't think it's going to be as close as people are saying. So
Yeah,
we kind of agree. But
So we do agree.
yeah,
Landslide.
Not a landslide.
That's a landslide.
No.
It's not. If it's not close, it's a landslide.
Oh, is that the only two options?
That's the
it's
only two
close
options.
or it's a landslide?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Because if you're the one that won, it's a landslide.
I won
by 10 points. Landslide.
All right, let's Google the landslide metaphor. See what that actually has to say. Hey man, have you voted yet?
No, I'm going. I'm going like a good American
On the day?
on the day of.
Oh man,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a mess. It's gonna be cold.
My polling place is fantastic.
Which one is yours?
It's the one, where the Kapelchiks live, right?
Yeah.
So in there's like a little community center.
In there?
Yeah.
Well, I bet that is pretty good.
Yeah, see?
I voted early, so.
Like a good liberal.
Yeah. What are you talking about? I'm not a liberal.
That's the liberal way.
No, mail-in, like double mail-in, that's the liberal way. Double mail-in votes.
Yeah, no, I just go at 6 a.m. I go a little bit before 6. I go 5:45, and then go to work after.
Yeah. Well, the reason I voted early is because I'm traveling on Tuesday, so I won't be here. To actually vote, I've always voted on the day of. I like voting.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing. Hey, before we get into this, I keep meaning to ask you this.
Oh, here we go.
No, it's about my wife.
Oh, okay.
All right, check it out.
Oh, okay. Yes, please.
Okay.
Let me see if I can enlighten you on the
I
ways
just
of your
want to
wife.
share it because I think it's weird.
Oh, okay. Well, you're
It's
like, you made it sound like you're going to ask me a question about your wife.
No.
You literally said, "Let me ask you a question." It's about my wife.
No, I want to ask you a question about something my wife does. So, all right. So she's pretty healthy, right?
Yeah, very healthy.
She's pretty healthy and stuff, but she'll eat some junk. She likes Coke Zero.
Okay.
That's one of her beverages.
Okay.
One of her, not so good for you sort of thing. Got chemicals in it.
Yeah.
But she likes to put lemon in her Coke Zero.
Coke Zero with lemon?
Now, I found out, that's a lot of people do that. A lot of people put lemon in their Diet Coke and Coke Zero because it softens that aspartame taste of the artificial sweetener.
It makes sense. I can understand that.
But here's the thing.
They're both acidic. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm trying to go through. All right, continue.
I thought it was a little. I mean, I've gotten it in a cup at the
I'm trying to understand
restaurant where they put a slice of
yeah.
But she puts lemon juice, squeezes lemon juice in it.
Huh.
A whole lemon.
Wait, not like a slice, not a half. Like
She
a whole lemon.
takes a giant lemon, cuts it in half, and she has a special press, and she
Yeah.
presses all of the juice out of both halves of that lemon into one can of Coke Zero.
Well, I mean, hey, listen, the results she's getting,
Is it working?
it's working.
Okay.
So you know what? Good on you, Jen.
It is weird. So
It's like the results I'm getting from, doubling the beef and the bacon.
from chicken wings and old fashions.
Yeah. So you can see my results from I'm not really going to sit here and critique Jen.
I'm not critiquing.
on the lemon in her Coke Zero.
I thought it was bizarre until I took a drink of hers.
And it was good?
Yeah, it was actually really good.
Oh, see?
So I had two last night.
See? Oh, okay.
I was staying up late. That's right.
Right.
I'd never heard of somebody putting all the juice of one whole lemon.
I've never
in
heard
there.
that either.
It seems excessive.
It does. But again, the results speak for
Maybe
themselves.
even wasteful.
Why is it wasteful?
Because there are, people all around the country that are just dying to have just a drop of something sour, and then here she is, just like, I got all the sour.
There are just pirates and sailors out there that are getting scurvy.
Yep, and they have no citrus.
They have no citrus, no lemons.
Jen's just like, I'm
And
gonna
here
put
she
all
goes
the lemons.
in my Coke Zero.
Just
so
have
privileged.
lemonade. I don't know what this is.
Just so privileged.
Man.
Now I kind of want to try it.
Oh, dude, I'm telling you.
Now I want to try it.
Really good. It's really good. You know what? It tastes better when she makes it for me than when I do it.
I do find an old fashioned is better when someone else makes. Yeah, it's usually Allie or Well, yeah, pretty much just Allie. Because she used to be a bartender.
Yeah. All right. So people have been asking. We dropped an episode last week about politics and policies and character and all of that. And we've been cagey about who we vote for. Or who
have we though?
Not in the past.
Okay.
But about we haven't specifically said who we're voting for. And it's not because we're afraid to. We're going to tell you today. But it's because we always have a different point. We're trying to make certain points, and we want you to hear the point we're trying to make before we do that. Well, here the point is everybody's asking about, not everybody, but a number of people have asked, who are you guys voting for? I had a guy.
What number?
Oh, I don't know, but a lot. I had a guy send an email or some message. Why is Jimmy so dead set against voting for Trump this time? And I'm like, Jimmy has, and I said, Jimmy has never indicated that he is not voting for Trump or that he is voting for Trump this time. You should ask him. And I don't know if he followed up with you or not, but we're going to get into it now. But before we do, there is this question. Can pastors, which is what we are, can pastors endorse political candidates? Jimmy, is it legal for a pastor to endorse a political candidate?
A pastor has the right to personally endorse any candidate they choose.
Or condemn. Right?
Yep.
We can absolutely do that. You can even attach the little official reverend title on your name, sign something. That's all fine. But there is something called the Johnson Amendment. And the Johnson Amendment was passed in 1954, and it prohibits nonprofits, specifically 501c3 nonprofit organizations, from endorsing or opposing political candidates. So it's not just pastors, it's nonprofit organizations. And so pastors in their capacity as a minister of the gospel cannot say from the pulpit, for example, endorse or oppose political candidates. It is.
Now, Joey, we see that happening all the time. Are you saying that they're sinning?
There is a movement of people to seek that amendment to be struck down or repealed. People don't believe it's constitutional. And that may be the case, but
I guess the tax breaks are, we don't ask the question of whether or not those are constitutional, though, right? Yeah, I love when people want their cake. You know what I mean? Like they want both sides of it. It's so hypocritical. Yep. That's not constitutional. Where's my tax break?
Yeah, I don't want to pay property taxes on this building here.
Yeah, it's just it's seriously so hypocritical. Anyways, continue, Joe.
Well, so
separation of church and state. Let me have my tax break. For real, right? Am I wrong?
No, listen, I get it. And I understand where a lot of them are coming from, because so much of my past was in that circle where very politically oriented and charged leaders were in the weeds on all that stuff. So I have had a lot of exposure to it. But yeah, I don't, well, let me just say this. I think when it comes to, whether or not it is legal, my understanding is churches cannot endorse or oppose political candidates. It doesn't mean that you can't say what this political candidate has done is immoral or something like that, but you can't endorse or oppose.
Oh, but yeah. I guess you could tell everyone though that they should be under church discipline if they vote for a candidate, though, right? Yeah. So again,
that reads illegal to me.
Yeah, well, and that's just it.
Doesn't mean it's immoral.
Feel free to do it. Give up your nonprofit status.
Yeah.
Then give it up. Give it up and be free to say what you want.
I guess they might say though, no. I think that amendment is unconstitutional in that it is barring free speech. So even though we are a nonprofit organization, that should not limit our free speech. So they have an argument there.
And so my argument, though, is with any there's always a stipulation. There's always a string attached. So you are receiving a tax benefit that is something, whether you are a Democrat or Republican or independent, it's being somehow paid for by somebody else. Someone else is making up that ground. And so you don't want to be beholden then give that up.
Yeah. And there are many churches that are not 501c3s.
That's right. They can say whatever they want. I'm good with that.
And they and people don't like a lot of people think you have to be a 501c3 to be a church. You don't.
You just can't give tax receipts.
Yeah. What you can do, and I don't even know if that's accurate. Because
it's accurate. Trust me, it's accurate.
Might be different.
Well, where?
Because we went through this whole thing. So I don't have the, but they took us through this during the SBC church planting training. And they said, encourage you to go 501c3, but there are churches that don't, and they're still able to get donations, and I was under the impression that it still could be tax deductible.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the first things I ask, like when people are, looking for a company to donate.
Right.
I need to see your 501c3
Right.
status.
So, so we're not saying that it's immoral for a pastor to endorse a candidate or for a church to inherently. What we are saying is that it is illegal. Now, as two guys on a podcast, we can say whatever we want. As individuals, we can tell you who we're voting for and maybe why or how we're feeling about it, because everybody is so frustrated, confused, hyped about this election.
Now I'm going to ask you a question. I'm just going to ask you point blank, Joe. Yeah. Are you ready? Are you ready for my?
I am absolutely ready.
Okay. It's a two-parter.
Okay.
All right. One, and let me get both parts out.
Okay.
One, who are you voting for? And two, why is it for your nephew, Uncle Joe?
Because I like the way he comes from behind and sniffs my hair.
Is that why you shaved it all off so he would stop doing that?
He would keep away from me. All right. So, you're making me go first. Okay.
Yeah, go first. You want me to go first? I'll go first. I don't care.
Well, what I wanted to say, though,
I think it's pretty clear who I'm voting for.
Well, everybody knows you're voting for, and it's only because I got you on the Trump train.
Oh, first
early
on.
Did. Oh, I did 2016.
You did.
I got you on the Trump to 2016.
You did not.
I did.
You did not.
I did. Who got you signed up for all the Trump stuff? Who did that?
Anyways,
who did that? I did that. I got you signed up for all the Trump. Okay, so Jimmy and I both were not Trump fans. We didn't vote for him in the first election. I think we both voted a third party, and as did my wife and many others that we know. As we watched these 4 years unfold, I have come to the conclusion that while I do believe that Trump is a moral mess, that he is oftentimes misguided, I think that he has the character of a man that I would not want my son to have, and he is the kind of man I definitely don't want my daughters to marry. But when I look at what he has done, forget all of the hype. When I look at what he has done in terms of policy, I'm one of those guys. I generally like his policies. I like his decisions that he's made, whether that is prison reform, how the economy did under his watch, especially for minorities and those who are disadvantaged. Before COVID, of course, how he's handled Supreme Court justice appointments in general, all of that, and his general approach to, what should be protected, right? Certain like Second Amendment rights, for example. So when I look at all that stuff, I say, I like Trump enough to vote for him on his policy, in contrast to Biden, whom I don't think has good character either. So I agree with Sam Storms on that. Like, his character is just as bad. It's just more palatable for the general public.
Yeah, and he hides things really well.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, they're just on laptops.
Yeah, they're coming out. But even just like the moral sense, like what he stands for, morally. Are you laughing at your own joke?
I'm laughing because I thought of a joke I read yesterday about, guess Hunter's not getting a laptop for Christmas. Sorry.
So I am voting. I have voted for Trump. So if the world is burning when this drops on Thursday,
it's your fault.
And I think we both think Trump's going to win. I think people are going to be surprised at the number of minorities that vote for President Trump as well. Because I've seen quite a bit of activity there among minority conservatives. There's been a surge of that in the last few years. Anyway, so I'm going to vote for Trump. But before I talk about how I feel about it, Jimmy, who are you voting for?
Oh, Trump.
Yeah.
I'm going for Trumpy.
Duh.
But
you were so against him in 2016.
So against? Yeah. I mean, I had reservations. It was more about I did not think he would follow through.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I felt like you watch Trump, and there is that politician in him. There's that showmanship. There's that like, he knows how to read a room and to tell you what you want to hear, right?
Yep. And he does lie.
Yeah. And so I'm like, well, he's just going to flip-flop.
Yeah.
A lifetime Democrat, all of a sudden, even in the 90s saying, or 80s and 90s, man, if I wanted to run for president, I got to do Republican because those idiots will vote me in. and he's, look what happens, right? And now I'm not saying maybe he's not genuine anymore. Maybe he genuinely became a Republican. But I'm looking for, I do want a fiscal conservative,
Yep.
and yeah, he's spent a lot of money, but anyway, so I was just, that's what it came down to in 2016 was more about, are you really going to follow through with what you said you're going to do?
Mhm.
Like, or is this just all talk? Like, is this just a big game?
Everybody that I know who didn't vote for him, that was one of the big reasons. We didn't believe that he would do the things that he said he would do. And he really did follow through on a lot of the things that he said he would do, which is really uncommon. So I think it's fair to say that we have always worked to be gracious towards people who think differently, strategize differently, vote differently than us, and because we're all trying to figure it out. Like we're doing our best to figure it out, and we could be wrong. People who vote a third party could be wrong, or we could all be wrong. I can't be 100%, but I'm confident that my vote is not a betrayal of God. I don't believe it is a violation of Scripture or Christian witness, and I'm not even troubled. I'm not troubled by casting my vote. Now, I'm troubled for our country in general. There are aspects of Trump that trouble me because he does lie about stuff. And we in my reading and my watching, and I watched him pretty closely these 4 years, he says a lot of things that are inaccurate. He talks off the cuff a lot. So sometimes he's just talking like people talk. And as a president, you really shouldn't do that. You shouldn't be figuring it out on your feet or guessing or flat out lying. But a lot of those things, most of those things that I've seen have been side issues, not these central issues. I don't believe Trump is a racist.
No, I don't.
But that doesn't mean that, and I really do believe that I don't. I guess I'm going to say I don't think either Trump or Biden are racist, but I do think that Biden is the one that actually has said more racist things that maybe come from where he's from, or I'm not really sure. Maybe his current mental state. I'm not really sure, but he said a lot of things that I think a lot of people would consider offensive if they were actually to just take him at his word. Yeah. Whereas I think Trump has oftentimes been either misrepresented or people have assumed the worst. And part of the reason they do that is because he's got a big mouth and he pushes people's buttons. And when you push people's buttons, they're going to respond to you aggressively and they're not going to give you a fair hearing. If Trump had been presidential and made all of these same decisions, it would feel a whole lot different to a lot of people.
Maybe.
For sure. It would absolutely feel different to a whole lot of people. I don't think there's any argument against that.
No, I'm arguing against it.
But what I'm saying is that it's to say that it wouldn't feel different to a whole lot of, it would definitely feel different to it because it would feel different to us. It would feel different to a lot of people if he was more presidential. It doesn't mean that the country wouldn't be in this fight right now. It just means that...
So it wouldn't be different.
It would be different. I said people would feel quite a bit different about him because he's not so antagonistic. It doesn't mean that we wouldn't be having this. I'll tell you, and most of the commentators that I've listened to have said the same thing, that that it's not just Trump's policies, because a lot of them are fairly standard conservative policies that other conservatives have implemented. It is because of Trump stepping in when he did, and then ratcheting up the attack mode. Whereas I think it's fair to say that there's been mudslinging for a long time and a lot of really ugly, ungodly campaigns where they smear each other. Trump was the first person that I can recall getting on stage and just blasting people. And that has created a response. There's a necessary response when somebody steps out of the norm and begins to do something like that. If he had been more presidential but still direct, I think a lot of people would feel different. That I don't, and one of the reasons I think that one of the things I'm saying is if he would have been that way, I think more people would have voted for Trump on the front end. I think people had to work through all of his craziness out of 4 years to go, okay, all of that stuff that I didn't like. So a lot of people couldn't vote for him because he was so non-presidential. They are voting for him this time. It's like they had to get over that stuff in order to say, now I think I will vote for him, or I know that people are saying they're going to vote for him. But they had to work through that. So I do think that there is something to the tone and the tenor. But so why don't you feel bad about voting for Trump when, we both agree his character is at best sus? Why don't you feel conflicted about voting for him?
Two reasons. So I think I've said to Joe, and maybe I'm looking at this the wrong way, I don't feel like I am voting for a morality in chief, right? I'm voting for a commander in chief. I actually, back in the whole Clinton thing, I was like, and I was a teenager, was thinking like, I don't understand this. Like, people sin, men and women sin. Does that then, that disqualifies you as a pastor, right? But does that disqualify you as a CEO? Does that disqualify you to head an organization? Does that what? So I don't understand that. I don't get the sense that I'm voting for someone to bring in Christian values and change the country's laws so that we all live under the word of God. I don't understand that.
Let me offer, I think what some people would say in response to that, which is like that we're not looking for him to be a Christian or anything else, but that in any leader, we do look for character. And military, for example, like they would all say character matters.
Yeah.
Across the board. So and I think we would say that leadership involves character. Your character does matter. So it's not that he has to be a Christian. He's obviously not a Christian in the sense that we use that word. But are you saying then that character doesn't matter when it comes to leadership? Because it sounded that way when you were kind of like,
no, I think character does matter, but so then does that then mean, okay, then going back to that, because I'm using the example of sexual sins in this, right? So does that was Clinton disqualified? That's a question. Was Clinton then disqualified? Should he have had to step down as president?
Well, he wasn't disqualified. It was because he perjured himself. It wasn't the
No, I said the sexual part. That's the part I'm focusing on right now.
Yeah, I don't know what people would say about that.
I'm asking what you would say.
No, I don't think that that someone sinning sexually necessarily disqualifies them from leading in a political arena.
Okay.
But it would depend on what it was.
Okay.
Pedophilia.
Yeah. Obviously, there's caveats there. I'm talking about,
but
run of the mill. I don't know. That sounds horrible saying it like
Jimmy.
that.
Wow, you just don't even hey, that's a run of the mill kind of sin. I run that mill.
Oh, no, don't say that. Don't say that.
No, of course not. I think that, so I guess what I would, because again, I wasn't arguing for, I do think character matters, of course, but when we're looking at these guys, I think we have to look at who they are and what they do. I think I'm interested in both. Now,
correct. And so but I also think, and you alluded to it, Trump's character is on his sleeves, right? We see what that is.
Yep.
And I think politics in general is about hiding, and it's like Instagram. Instagram is always a 30% increase to what your life is actually like, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's a 30% increase of glory to what your real life is actually like. Politics, I think, goes even further than that.
Right.
And so that on-stage presence is what you portrayed there. I don't think is really who you are, except for Trump.
I actually agree with that. I think that he is much more who he really is on stage than any other candidate. Yeah. Because that's why he gets in trouble. Because that's why we get in trouble. Because on the podcast we say things that we're thinking, and it's like most pastors wouldn't do that because they don't want the pushback. Listen, I would imagine that some people have turned off the podcast. Not a lot of our listeners, but I would imagine some of our listeners have turned off the podcast. And it's not just because we're voting for Trump or we voted for Trump when this airs. I think it's because they can't handle that we would disagree with their perspective so much. So back to the character issue though.
Okay, go ahead. You go with character, then I'll go with the second reason.
So you would say character matters in leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when somebody says, okay, so if character matters, and you say the president doesn't have good character, at least in some of these ways that are kind of obvious, I think one of the things that we could say, though, is that, well, character is not the only thing that matters. And I don't think either of these men have good character.
Yeah.
And so since it's not the only thing, it's one factor in there, we've got to evaluate and strategize what is going to bring about the best results for the most people and for all people, potentially. And that's why we're voting this way. I know that might get us canceled in the eyes of some, but whatever. You had a second thing.
Oh yeah, second. This is personal conviction based on this is me personally. I can't vote for a candidate that supports abortion. I just can't. Yeah. I cannot. I just cannot.
I've even tried to like reason it out, like hypothetically. Mm-hmm. Like, let's say there was a pro-choice candidate who so believed that it was better for it to be rare that he would put in policies. This is such a big hypothetical. He would put in policies that would wind up decreasing the number of abortions in our country. And we had a pro-life president who would do nothing at all, so the numbers would stay the same. Would that then move me to vote for, on a pragmatic level, the other candidate, the pro-choice candidate? And I think that's an interesting question. I don't know how realistic it is. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's very realistic. I don't think that's generally not how the left has carried the pro-choice movement, because it continues to get ratcheted up. It used to be rare, safe, and legal, and now it's just legal and safe. It's not rare. It should be common. You should celebrate your abortion kind of stuff. So
yeah, I
totally agree with you.
Yeah, the murder of these unborn. I cannot.
And that's an evil. That's a character issue as well.
That is evil. It's to be abhorred, and we want to, and we need to. That's the only time I'm looking, and I look through the lens. To me, that's not even like a Christian lens. That's just that's morality. That's just
and science. It's
that's
biology.
Murder, right? And in the same way, then I look at my fellow conservatives. I go, why aren't you caring about like prison reform and people on death row and every life matters, except I don't want to wear my mask. Like, all these things are inconsistent to me. Yeah. But I cannot vote. Like, when I look at conservatives, I see a huge inconsistency there. Yeah. And to me, that's why when I hear people say on Black Lives Matter, of like, oh, that's just talk. You're picking and choosing. To a degree, I understand what they're saying, because we do as conservatives pick and choose what life matters when it's in a sense, right? Yeah. Because I can't do this mask thing. Forget it. That's just infringing my body, my choice. My body, my choice. Don't tell me what I have to do with my body and force me to wear a mask, right? Yeah.
Jimmy and I are not fans of the mask, but we wear the mask when asked. Yeah. And we wear the mask in case we are carrying it for some reason. Like, Jimmy is not concerned about himself. I'm not concerned about myself. We have no concern. I
know I will die when I get it. Yeah. Like, so I already know.
So he basically walks around and licks surfaces wherever he goes. No, it's like we really aren't concerned for ourselves at all. But I am concerned about others who are at risk. Yeah. And so we wear the mask. It's like and we don't like it. It's not fun, but whatever. But it's because we actually care. It's not because. It's an inconvenience. And I do think that they've overhyped and blown up and misrepresented what the virus is, but it is still a real thing. And so, we wear the mask for people. Yeah. It's fine.
And so I get really frustrated about the inconsistency among conservatives. But in the end, I cannot vote for a pro-choice. I cannot.
Why not then vote for a third-party candidate? Can't you find, like, Kanye or somebody? Can't you find some?
Well, in California, as vice president, I can. Okay. I could vote for Kanye as VP. He's on the ballot as VP.
So what would you say to people who want to know, well, why not vote third-party if there was...
I've thought about libertarian.
If there's, libertarian party, or like maybe there's a Southern Baptist, born again, Reformed Southern Baptist, who agrees with you on everything. Why wouldn't you vote for him? Or would you if that guy was on the ticket?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to see the ticket, right? I'd have to see the ticket. I'd have to hear what they had to say. I mean, I do think there's, I have had like fears, because I've thought about, like, do I look outside, right, and go third party again? And this is where I'm going to contradict what I said earlier, right? About landslide. There is that like sense. There's always like a 5% chance. I'm like, well, maybe it's closer than I realize.
It's definitely going to be closer than you think.
And so because of that, I don't feel like I'm like, I don't want to throw away my vote. Does that make sense? I don't, because I'm like,
that's why I wouldn't do it.
Because I
think too much is at stake.
Too much is at stake, right? And I just don't feel like I want to. I don't want to throw that away. And I mean, yeah, listen, we live in Illinois. This state's going blue, right? Though I'm seeing a lot. Listen,
I would not be surprised if things changed. I do think that people are going to be surprised at this election.
Listen, I'm seeing pro-Biden rallies. Like I'm talking about little parades.
Yeah.
3 cars.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, miles and miles of Trump.
Yeah.
I have not seen so many conservative pro-Trump lawn signs and flags.
So it could. I mean, things could change.
I've never seen that around here.
I don't think either one of us would be. So by the way, when you say you're predicting a landslide, what's the margin?
7%.
7%?
7. Yep. Because 3% is the margin of error.
Yeah. I still don't think 7 is a landslide, but all right, we'll talk about it off air. Maybe you can change my mind. Because I wouldn't be surprised if what I've been telling people is I think Trump's going to win, and I thought it was going to be a lot closer. And then the last 2 months, I've seen way too much activity and have listened to too many people that are changing their minds.
Well, even after the last debate, the last debate, you know what the most Googled question was in Delaware and Pennsylvania? How can I change my vote? I'm not even playing.
Maybe that meant for Biden.
Yeah, I'm sure that was. How can I change my early voting?
Yeah. So bottom line is, guys, you asked, so we're going to tell you. We're voting for Trump. Now,
we had a nice run, guys. We love you. Sorry to see you go. We've had a good time.
Yeah. And here's the thing, like if you can't listen to us, that's fine. Like, bless you, do your thing. But we don't function that way. We are friends with and listen to and read people that disagree with us on very important matters.
Yep.
So yeah, we're not conflicted about our vote. And by the way, to back you up, just to say, I wouldn't vote third party because my conscience isn't compelling me to. If my conscience was compelling me to, that's what I would do.
See, I felt like that in 2016.
Yeah, a lot of us did. But now conscience is not compelling us to do it. Conscience is telling us to go somewhere else. And so since my conscience is not compelling me, then that's not an option because I want to see certain things happen, and I think they're more likely to happen with Trump. But all this to say, we disagree. We can disagree. We can be friends because our unity is found in Christ. And listen, if we're proven to be the fools here, we will be the first to admit it. Like we will not be afraid to say, like, a year from now, if this turns out that this was a really bad play, then we will say, you know what, that was a bad vote. We cast a bad vote. But obviously we don't think that's going to happen.
I felt like I cast a bad vote in 2016. I wish I was on the Trump train then.
I got you on. I signed you up.
No,
I did. Come on, you have to admit, who was the first person that signed you up? I basically introduced you to Trump.
You introduced me to Trump? Yes.
I feel like I did.
You feel like you did?
Hey, Jimmy, people are going to want to roast us and cancel us. How can they cancel us on social media?
Well, you can follow us online on Instagram and Twitter.
It's at Block and
Devo. I just said at Doc and Devo.
Block and Devo.
You can follow us online. Stop. On Instagram and Twitter at Doc and Devo.
I'm trying to give you fake handles so that they don't go to our real ones.
Facebook /Doctrine and Devotion.
Something like that.
You can head to the website, drdevotion.com. There you can contact us. You can sign up for the email blast, or make sure you hit up that store, jofostore.com, and then grab some of that gear. Now, Joe, this podcast, now that people are leaving it, we need the rest of you to share the podcast and leave us that honest 5-star review because there's going to be a lot of people that don't like what we just said.
That's all right.
Yeah.
That's all right. So, hey, you know what? Seriously, feel free to engage us on social media, and Jimmy will respond to each and every one of you.
Probably not. Probably not. Fresh pod every Monday and Thursday. Later, guys.